Here we go.
Uncharted 2 Among Thieves is infused in my brain cell as one of the best sequels to any game I have ever played. And rightfully so. Uncharted 2 came out in 2009, roughly 2 years after the banger that was Drake's Fortune. The jump that Naughty Dog has shown us in the span of just 23 months back then was unbelievable. Among Thieves followed the footsteps of Drake's Fortune, but only did it bigger, better, and at a grander scale. It is justifiably deemed as one of the, if not the best game of the franchise. I got the Platinum Trophy of this game back in 2017, and I never played it again until now. So the question is, whether this game remains a masterpiece in 2025, as it was back when it was released. I'm replaying the whole franchise on this channel, and I've already made a video on Drake's Fortune last week. But this video will be done in my style of retrospective, where we break it down beat by beat and just share what I feel moment to moment. So without further ado, this is Uncharted 2 Among Thieves in 2025.
Shall we? After you, Butch. See you in hell, kid.
I'll be honest, I don't rate Uncharted 2 as highly as a lot of people do in comparison to the other games in the franchise. But I will be lying if I say that my jaw didn't drop when I played it right after beating Drake's Fortune. I have never played a sequel to a game that made a jump so significant, taking into account that these two games are just 2 years apart. So let's start from the beginning. The game commences with a wounded Nathan Drake just hanging from a cliff inside a train, as the player is given control to climb out of it with everything Nate touches falling apart. Being on the brink of death, playing through this sequence is absolutely exhilarating. It's a very Uncharted thing to make you feel this way. However, I was hard-pressed to recognize what has changed in comparison to the first game. Immediately, the game switches to a flashback sequence where we see Nate accept a job to steal a Mongolian oil lamp from the Istanbul Museum, which has the potential to lead to Marco Polo's lost fleet. We see two new characters being introduced to the franchise. One is Harry Flynn,
In like Flynn.
followed by Chloe Frazer.
Chloe Frazer.
Both incredible additions to the game. Harry Flynn is this charismatic British treasure hunter who is very resentful towards Nate as he finds him more superior in this realm of treasure hunting. We see him double-cross Nate right after the museum heist, showing his covetous nature. Chloe Frazer, on the other hand, is this incredibly attractive, witty, and practical Indian-Australian treasure hunter, often referred to as the best driver in the business.
Chloe is one of the best drivers in the business.
Chloe is depicted as this clever and candid character who is very sexual. I love the sexual chemistry between Nate and her, and everything that comes out of her mouth is pure gold.
Okay, I see where this is going.
Just need a diversion. You give me 5 minutes in that tent, that's all it'll take.
Really? 5 minutes? Well, that's great. I won't even have to get my top off.
She's one of the best characters in the franchise, hands down. During the museum heist, we saw one of the new additions to the game, and that is stealth takedowns. Drake's Fortune didn't have any sort of stealth mechanics, but here you get some basic stealth that lets you thin the herd before going all guns blazing. And as you know, I love to gush about locations in every game I make a video on. Istanbul Palace Museum starts ugly as we climb our way through the sewer and then reveal its lush courtyards, incredible vistas, while platforming the rooftops and of course the Marco Polo exhibit. It is incredibly well realized and looks breathtaking for a 16-year-old game with its bluish nighttime lighting. By the end of this chapter, we also got to find that the Lost Fleet has been transporting the Cintamani Stone from Shambhala before it was thrown ashore in Borneo by a tsunami. But as Harry Flynn ditched us in the museum, Nate was arrested attempting to escape. After 3 months, Nate was released with the help of Chloe and everyone's favorite character, Victor Sullivan, aka Sully.
Hey! Jackass, you're ruining the show here.
Ah, what a shame.
Sully!
I really can't leave you alone for a minute.
Oh man, am I glad to see you.
There's truly something special about the bond between Sully and Nate. Every time they're conversing, poking each other, bantering, I'm glued to my screen. We also found out that Chloe has no idea of Flynn's treachery, and the trio make their way to Borneo, Chloe playing both sides.
Dear God.
Oh, no, it's not that bad. Look, I have my own bucket.
In Borneo, this is where you know you are playing an Uncharted game, as we jump, hop, and skip through this jungle-filled island with mountains, swampy terrains, and canyons. It is astonishing, with clicking sounds of fireflies on one ear and Sully's womanizing story on the other.
I'm sweating like a hooker in church.
You brought a hooker to church?
Why not?
We fight through a horde of mercenaries led by our villain Zoran Lazarević, a Serbian war criminal who is after the treasure as well. One thing that stood out in this chapter to me is how grenades play a big role in this game in comparison to Drake's Fortune. The game sort of promotes it in this chapter, and with new enemy types coming, grenades will be the first course of action, as we will see later in this video. By the end of this chapter, we learned that the Cintamani Stone never existed in the fleet, and our next clue will be in Nepal, Kathmandu. Nate and Sully make a narrow escape out of Borneo as they jump off a cliff into a river, and Sully backs out of this hunt, stating it's too risky. You realized the scale of this game that Naughty Dog has packaged. Unlike the first game, this is a globe-trotting epic.
Shit.
At this point in the game, I wasn't much impressed with this game, but that all changed when we made our way to Kathmandu, Nepal. This has to be one of my favorite locations in the whole franchise, and the moment I realized just the scale of what Naughty Dog has achieved here. Kathmandu in Among Thieves is a war zone and completely destroyed thanks to Lazarević. I was in awe when I first got to explore this locale. If I'm not wrong, this is the first explorable urban environment in the franchise. Being from a third world country myself, just seeing these small billboards of hair salons, gigantic billboards of movies, electric grid lines, beer commercials, completely destroyed hotels and interiors. Although I wish we had one good hotel though.
There's a hotel not far from here.
Chloe, now is not the time.
It's easily the tallest building in the city.
Right. Well, okay. That's good thinking.
It's so well realized, and the fact that you can just climb, platform, and scale this decimated city is truly something. Jumping from one building to the other, it's one of my real-life fantasies being fulfilled here. I can literally talk for hours just praising this location. This particular chapter is also home to one of the best set pieces in the game and the franchise, as a helicopter chases us through the city and we fight off multiple encounters from the mercenaries.
Whoa! Jump!
We were almost in that.
My 2 cents on the climbing and platforming in Uncharted 2 is that I don't think much has improved from the first game. It is a little more consistent and the animations feel tighter. En route to the hotel with the Purba symbol, we stumble upon our lost love, Elena Fisher, who is scoping this war zone, and Lazarević as a reporter with Jeff, the cameraman. This of course opens the potential of a love triangle that's about to unfold and adds this interesting twist in the relationships between the characters and the way they communicate.
I'm sorry, am I sensing some history here?
Oh, Elena Fisher. Last year's model.
That's cute.
So 4 of us started our journey towards the temple after some climbing, jumping, and taking down some mercenaries. In this beautiful temple, we solved 2 big puzzles, which took a bit of time. Not that they're tough puzzles, but finding the ledges and platforms to climb was time consuming. Prior to solving the puzzle, we found a map to Shambhala.
So, we did it.
We did it. Yes. We did it.
Oh crap, that kills the mood.
And our attempt to escape the temple, we found out that Jeff was shot. This is where we see the conflict of 2 motives occurring. Chloe, being the professionalist, wants to ditch Jeff, but Elena wants to still help her injured friend.
He's fine. Aren't you, Chief? All right, get the door open.
He's never gonna make it. We have to leave him.
What? No!
Get the door open,
Gonna
Chloe.
get us all killed.
Ultimately, they failed and we had our first confrontation with our villain. Personally, I'm not a fan of Lazarević, and I think he is one of the weakest villains in the whole series. Lazarević shot Jeff and stole the map from Nate, letting Flynn finish him off. Somehow we managed to escape and make our way towards the rail yard, where Chloe was taken. This is something I really like about this particular story. how it sets a clear objective for you to follow, keeping you engaged throughout. We finally made it to the rail yard, and thanks to Elena, eventually we got on board the train, which is the place where one of the biggest and greatest ever set pieces in the Uncharted series takes place. I still remember people playing through it back in 2009, how they just couldn't believe that they are in control of what is going on screen. With enemies shooting at you, train signals coming your way with this fast moving train, and of course the helicopter to ruin your day. There is so much happening at a given moment that it is impossible to believe that this game was able to pull this off 16 years ago. Nathan Drake, being the luckiest dude of all time, somehow survives all this thanks to Chloe, who shot the Draza man that was strangling him.
Saved my ass again. You alright?
Get off the train, Nate.
What are you talking about?
We saw a pretty heated argument between Chloe and Nate, as he did not back her earlier in the story. You immediately realize how the storytelling in Uncharted games have come a long way in just 2 years, how it's exploring much deeper character interactions, how there's more nuance to the characters, not to mention how the performances haven't aged a day. I've talked more about this in my Drake's Fortune video, how impressive the performances of these characters are across the board even 16 years later. They parted ways when eventually Flynn shot Nate in the belly. Nate, being injured, shoots a pile of propane tanks, hence we get back to where the game started, hanging from a cliff inside a train.
Here goes nothing.
Nate eventually loses consciousness, being injured. We saw a Tibetan man named Tenzin helping and healing us from the brink of death. Nate then gained consciousness and we get to explore a Tibetan village.
The hell am I?
The story kind of takes a much needed backseat after the insanity we went through in Nepal as we explore this culturally alluring village. We kick some balls of the kids, footballs. We play hide and seek with the kids.
I see you two hiding.
And eventually meet with Elena and Carl Schaefer. At this point in the story, Nate was reluctant to go after Shambhala, but Carl doubled down on how dangerous the Cintamani Stone is and how its possession can make Lazarević way more powerful than any individual that has ever sought it. Again, we see the nuances of the storytelling and how much it has improved in comparison to the first game. Nate was reluctant to believe the myth, but was forced to follow Tenzin as we make our way to explore these stunningly eye-catching ice caves as we climb and platform it with our non-English speaking Tibetan friend. The interaction between Tenzin and Nate in this chapter is incredibly funny, as they both don't understand what each other is saying.
What's it say? Why do I ask?
We climb and platform through the series of caves in this chapter, and it is a glimpse of Naughty Dog's exceptional level design. Just climbing, jumping onto these moving mechanisms, and holding onto these fragile scaffoldings is incredible. It's exhilarating and still gives you a rush of adrenaline 16 years later. We then finally make our way to a temple filled with Yeti-like creatures known as the Shambhala Guardians. We found numerous dead bodies just lying in the floor, which Carl Schaefer had to kill in his expedition 70 years ago to protect the world from the supernatural power of the Cintamani Stone. Again, similar to the first game, we find out that this story also has supernatural elements to it, which I personally do not like for this mostly grounded game.
You okay?
After escaping the temple, we make our way back to the village and find out that Schaefer has been kidnapped by Lazarević along with the Purba, and they are destroying this once beautiful village. This is again another incredible level design on display as we fight through this village in this snowy and stunning weather, jumping from one house to another, killing mercenaries in the process, just picking up whatever grenade weapons we find to take down a giant tank. It's so fun. This is the real meat of the Uncharted game and what makes it so special. It's cinematic and it's like a playable blockbuster action movie. And to reinstate that point, we play through another crazy set piece right after securing the village, attacking and following Lazarević convoys, jumping from one military truck to another to an abandoned monastery. which ends as Nate and Elena are blown off the edge of a cliff.
Come on. Just like old times, huh?
You could say that.
Gladly, the couple survives as we gain entrance to the monastery via the mountains. Again, I'm gonna gush about the level design and the production value of this game to just keep going and not have a dull moment. This abandoned monastery is just so fantastically designed as we scale and climb it both horizontally and vertically. For a game this old to do that truly shocked me.
Oh boy.
This particular point in the story is incredibly gameplay heavy as we take down numerous mercenaries on our way to save Carl Schaefer. After this long and fun gameplay sequence, we meet up with Schaefer, who is mortally wounded and tells us to destroy the Cintamani Stone. Elena and Nate split up, which will allow them to look for the secret entrance to Shambhala quicker. We then stumble upon Chloe, who surrenders the Purba to Nate as he promises to take down Lazarević in return.
Just do one thing for me. Take that son of a bitch down.
With the Purba in possession, we reunite with Elena and finally find the secret passage to Shambhala below the monastery. We reach the point where Lazarević corners us and forces Nate to either choose Chloe or Elena.
Who would you sacrifice and who would you save? Or this one? You want to save this one? Or maybe this one?
We saw this coming, didn't we? But not from the villain, of course. Nate had to agree and we joined forces with Flynn one more time to open the gate to Shambhala.
After you.
This particular moment was a throwback to the museum exploration we did together before, of course, we were double-crossed. We were again attacked by the Shambhala Guardians, but this time Lazarević intervened and helped us take them down. We then found out that the Shambhala Guardians are kept in place to protect it from trespassers, dressed like monsters. This allows us to really appreciate the nuances of the story, as I mentioned earlier in this video. Just how much it has expanded upon providing players a true feeling of adventure by incorporating mythologies. Even though I don't like the supernatural angle of it, it's still very believable and well done. Then the gate to Shambhala opens and it is a sight to behold. Right after the gate opens, Lazarević was about to kill Nate and Elena, but was interrupted by a horde of guardians, allowing us a window to escape. We then run for our life through this hidden city that contains the largely dilapidated ruins of a past civilization. Nate, Elena, and Chloe finally make their way to the top of the central temple, finding out that just like the myth suggested, the Cintamani stone is a blue resin embedded in a humongous tree of life. And what makes Shambhala so desirable to people like Lazarević is the blue sap, which upon drinking can turn any individual nearly invincible. This sort of denotes the whole backstory behind the existence of Shambhala, which is very interesting and kept this 10-hour-long story incredibly enjoyable to follow. As we were preparing to stop Lazarević, the snake, Harry Flynn, shows up and denotes a suicidal grenade, injuring Elena in the process.
Pity he took the pin.
Get back!
Elena!
Hence, we had to leave Elena to Chloe's care and go after the final showdown against Lazarević. We stumble upon Lazarević drinking the tree sap, which renders him scarless and indestructible. This is of course the infamous boss fight with Lazarević, where we detonate pockets of explosive resin in the trees, and I don't like it. It's weird and it takes away from this mostly grounded story, and I just don't think these games should have boss fights per se. I enjoyed playing through it, but I don't think it positively serves the story. After defeating Lazarević, we saw another horde of guardians showing up who brutally murders Lazarević in front of our very eyes. We then escape Shambhala in this insane set-piece moment where the whole of this lost city is destroyed through a series of explosions. As we make a narrow escape, back in the village, we see Elena recovering from her wounds, Chloe bids goodbye to Nate in this bittersweet conversation between them that ends just like it would for a badass like Chloe.
But admit it, you're gonna miss this ass.
We also saw Sully for the final time, who chases after Chloe.
Which way'd Chloe go? See you later.
Oh no.
You're a dirty old man, Sullivan.
Uh-huh.
Nate and Elena share a much-awaited final kiss, watching the sunset, a happy ending to this masterclass in video game storytelling. Okay then, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Replaying this game in 2025 is just as impactful as it was when I first played it back in 2017. There are certain elements that still stack up, even 16 years later. The characters, the performances, the storytelling, the level design, the direction, the blockbuster set pieces, not to mention incredibly fun to play mechanics, these things haven't aged a day. It was very straightforward and basic in its execution, but the impact is still lasting. There is a reason why Uncharted 2 is deemed as the game that accompanied what PlayStation has become in the last decade, the gold standard of cinematic third-person action-adventure games. And Uncharted 2 was and is a masterclass of a beginning. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to this channel. I put in a lot of time behind this video, so I would really appreciate it. I've already made a video on Drake's Fortune you can watch on my channel, and stay tuned as we will be playing the whole franchise with a retrospective on Uncharted 3 coming next week. That's it from me today. Rakzplayz signing off.
Oh, is that an ancient Tibetan ritual dagger in your pocket?
Oh, maybe I'm just happy to see you.
Yeah, hello.